Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Hey, docs, welcome. Excited for this topic. It's a solo episode, and it's something that I had posted about in the Facebook group, and I'm calling it the Chiropractic Vicious Cycle that I'm seeing. And it's concerning, it definitely is. Essentially, we're seeing a problem where there's not a lot of great chiropractic jobs, especially in our evidence-informed environment. There's just not a lot of great jobs out there that are paying well. And frankly, there's not a lot of great evidence-informed chiropractors that can afford to pay an associate, pay them well, and honestly even pay themselves well. And I think that's part of the vicious cycle we're having. And I'm going to read what I wrote here in a second, but we're running into a problem now. And it's, there's been that obvious history of, we hear chiropractors eating their young. And I think in certain decades, there was scenarios where the owner chiropractor was making a killing and then paying $30,000 a year. That's a problem. I think what we're running into in our evidence-informed crowd of chiropractors now more is the owners are frankly not making a lot of money, and they're trying to pigeonhole chiropractic associates. And I get it. And I've had an episode about associates in the past, but I think that's where we're at right now. And in a nutshell, the young DC is kind of disenchanted by poor associateships and lack of ideal comp. So that young DC opens their own practice, but really knows nothing of making a real business out of it, makes less money than they would, if they considered a fair associate compensation, and this happens years on end. So essentially, that young DC that opened their practice for quite a few years, if not for a very long time, is actually making less as a practice owner than they would have made as an associate, even with not a ideal comp, right? And we're running into that. So then they can't hire and pay an associate a fair comp. So no good associate jobs provided by these new young DCs, right? And so that cycle goes on. So a lack of good associateships available for younger DCs. And, you rinse and repeat. So as this keeps on happening, there's becoming more chiropractic practice owners in a sense, but they're not thriving and doing well, and they can't hire. A lot of them can't hire front desks, can't pay themselves what they want, can't hire an associate. So there's just not a lot of practices out there that can bring on a $85,000 a year salaried chiropractor. And we've kind of fallen into this cycle, and it gets tricky to get out of it, right? And what's tricky for the young DC that opens up their own practice without a really good associateship, where they get paid well and then obviously learn and mentored by that owner DC, is they never saw what it took or what it takes to really grow a practice and operate it efficiently and do the right type of marketing and hiring and leadership. And I mean, there's like 15 things I could list off that it takes to have a thriving chiropractic practice. And when they skip that step and they go from student to owner DC right out of the gates or very early on, or end up in a very bad associateship, which happens as well, they don't know what they don't know as it pertains to growing a practice efficiently and in getting to the point where they can pay themselves well, which would be step one. Step two, hiring support team. And then step three, hiring an associate and being able to compensate them fairly. And so we run into this problem. And so something I've thought about is that chiropractors have to really start to grasp that $30,000 a month revenue, right? Consistently or average. Maybe it's 27 one month, maybe it's 33 the next, whatever. But let's just, for the sake of this conversation, that $30,000 a month, right? Because when you do the math, That's $360,000 a year. And that's going to give you enough to where you can pay yourself in the low six figures, pay all your overhead, have some payroll. If you listen to the upcoming episode I have with Greg Crabtree, CPA, he talks about that overall labor cost, where there's a certain number, and he's going to dive into it, and so I won't right now, but he talks about how much overall labor costs a business should have based on the revenue, right? And in his model, and I'll let him explain it better in that episode, but if you're doing 360, then you're really going to be at about 180,000 that you could afford to have as overall labor, right? And so that's where you can start to hire some people, and you're going to get to. You may not have an associate at 30K. You could, but you may not. But it's going to get you onto the path to it, and I'm going to explain that in a second. Because, and for some of you, I know 30,000 a month sounds like a far, journey away from that, and you're kind of doing the math, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I'll do the math for you right now. Let's just do $30,000 in a month. Let's just say your OVA, your office visit average, is $75 a visit on average. And for some of you, it's not that high, so you'll have to change your math. But I can't do 20 different calculations here. So let's do 75. That's 400 visits in a month. That's about, if you divide that by, let's just call it 4.2. Some will say 4.3 because there's a couple extra days in each month mostly. That's about 95 visits a week to get there. A lot of you look at 95, and again, it's not a lot of patients to see in a week. It's a healthy amount for sure, but a lot. And I've talked about it before about the hourly capacity problem. A lot of you are burnt out at 50 a week, and your OVA is 75, and you're wondering why you can't really hire or pay yourself what you want. You got to get clinically efficient, and I highly recommend referencing the episode I did with Brett Winchester in 2022 about clinical efficiency and his thoughts on it, and how important it is, and how many of you need to get there for sure. But to see 400 in a month is not a big ask, to be honest with you. And it may be more if you're down to like $60, $65 OVA, but you have to get clinically efficient to be able to do that. Now, it's a step-by-step approach, right? Like, you're probably not running $30,000 a month by yourself as a lone wolf with no front desk. In my opinion, the ideal core team of a evidence-based chiropractor is the chiropractor, a really good rock star front desk, and then your next hire would be a really good CA that can help you out with a lot of the rehab and the exercises and subjective notes and history and consultations, so that you're now more efficient. And now you've got that core team of 3 that's humming along, and you're able to see more people and still provide great quality care. Because I'll tell you what, patients have a better experience when there's a team around you versus just you, right? And that's just the way it is. Sometimes it's psychological, and they see the lone wolf, and they've been doing it for 5 years, like, why isn't there a front desk person? Why are they taking my credit card? The doctor is, and all that. But that core team can really make you clinically efficient.
It's one thing to sit at home, in your car, or on a plane, absorbing knowledge through a pair of headphones. But nothing compares to being live in person with tens, hundreds, and sometimes thousands of like-minded doctors and team members at a live event hosted by Jay Geyer and the Scheduling Institute. Attending live adds another level of commitment to implementing what you learn, getting questions answered on the spot, and networking with other growth-minded doctors. This summer, Jay Geyer and the Scheduling Institute will host their annual Practice Growth Summit, where they'll welcome over 1,500 doctors and team members from around the world who will gather for 2 full days in Las Vegas to learn from industry experts and business leaders in one of the most engaging atmospheres we could create, and no one is capable of recreating. Bringing to the stage Heisman Trophy winner Tim Tebow, celebrity dentist and inventor of Zoom whitening Dr. Bill Dorfman, NFL superstar primetime Deion Sanders, host of the hit show The Doctors Travis Stork, and several others. Join Jay Geyer and his all-star lineup live in Las Vegas this June 15th through the 16th at Caesars Palace. Jay has offered 10 free tickets to attend this event exclusively for subscribers of the Modern Chiropractic Mastery podcast. Don't wait. Claim your complimentary ticket today. Call 470-203-9447 or go to practicegrowthevents.com and be sure to mention the Modern Chiropractic Mastery podcast. Don't wait. This is a high-demand event, and tickets are going fast.
All right, docs, here is a new opportunity for you from Darcy Sullivan of Propel. She is our SEO specialist in helping out many chiropractors with their search engine optimization and making sure Google is finding you and getting you new patients. It's amazing how many new patients chiropractors can get and are getting when they do the SEO right and a few other things. And Darcy is offering a free SEO workshop just for chiropractors, and you can sign up for that at bit.ly/propelmcm. That is bit.ly/propelmcm, Modern Chiropractic Marketing, right? And so check out that link, and we're going to have you go over 5 SEO secrets to owning the first page of Google without buying ads. And Darcy's going to give that free workshop, 1 hour, to really help grow your practice and start churning new patients from the ever mighty Google, which is still king in the online marketing. So check that out at bit.ly/propelmcm for the 1 hour free workshop. And then with that core team is probably where you're at maybe 25,000, 23,000, 22,000, 26,000 a month in revenue. And then you start to chip away a little bit and get a little more profitable. So you're, okay, now we're at 30, now we're at 32, and you've got that ability to hire an associate and pay them fairly out of the gates. If it's a young DC, it's going to cost you at least $6,000 a month if you're being fair. And I say that knowing that people live in much different cost of living areas. So again, if you're in the Bay Area, forget it. You're on a different planet than if you're in middle of America. So I'm just going to say, for the sake of argument, you're looking at $6K a month for that associate. So you got to make sure that you're able to afford that. Now let's break down what that $30,000 is. Some of the things are going to cost you, right? At $30K, you're going to want to pay yourself. I'd like for you to make $100,000. Let's just call it 100. We're going to have a little bit of delayed gratification. You could probably pay yourself more than that, but let's say, I'm building this thing. I live in Missouri. It's cost of living's fine-ish. We're going to go pay myself 100. You're looking at, let's just call it 9,000 a month right there. So you got about 21,000 left out of that 30. Your front desk, let's call it another $3,500, right? Your rent, let's call it another $2,500. Obviously, if you follow the profit first model or you listen to what Greg Crabtree wants, you're looking at, wanting to have 15% profit. So that's another $4,500 of profit that you want. You still got $10,500 there. You're going to have a bunch of other little miscellaneous things. Let's just call it another $3,000 in miscellaneous. You got $7,500 left. Let's hire that clinical CA, another $3,500, give or take. And, you still got $4,000 of meat left on the bone, and that's after the 15% profit. And so in that scenario, you could decide, I'm going to start tucking away some of that into a sinking fund so that when I do hire an associate, I'll have, maybe 3 months of their pay in an account that I can put in there to offload some of the burden on my cash flow, because you don't want to sacrifice your cash flow. And then your hopes is that, you onboard that associate well, and by month 4 or 5, they're starting to bring in some money. And between the profit you had or the extra money you had, the 4,000 here, plus your sinking funds, plus they're starting to bring in some money, they're paying for themselves. And then at some point, there should be a return on the investment of taking that risk of hiring the associate and, paying them a fair salary and maybe a bonus compensation structure where they're getting paid fairly for working hard. And then ultimately you're benefiting, and now the practice has more revenue. Maybe you're now with that associate. That's how you're going to make that next leap from 30,000 to 40,000, right? And that's where you're really starting to have a little more fun if you can keep your overhead low. I know plenty of practices that do 40 and it's tight, but keeping the overhead somewhat low and you've got that team around you and you got some of the freedoms of it. But I think ultimately we got to start aiming for that 30,000. Yeah, there's definitely some rungs on the ladder to get to first. Like, 20K is a great number to hit where you're doing a little bit more. But in the sake of trying to solve this vicious cycle that's happening in chiropractic, we need more evidence-informed practice owners getting to at least $30,000 a month. And that's my challenge to any of you that aren't there yet. Some of you might open your practice 6 months ago, so you're not going to be there. But that's got to be the lighthouse. Like, that's got to be where you're aiming for and really reverse engineering it from there. And that's something I'm working with on some of our members and stuff like that to really get clear on that. And so from there, we're able to get ourselves out of this vicious cycle. So more owner chiropractors in the evidence-informed world are able to hire great young DCs. Great young DCs are able to make a good living, learn a lot, be with that practice either for the long term or for 3 or 5 years, really learn what it takes to do it right. And then that young DC then goes out and now that cycle is broken where we're actually able to, as a profession and as a subset of the profession, provide great mentorship and great opportunities for young chiropractors to make a living, to help your practice out, help everybody grow, and then ultimately, be able to run thriving practices. And there's just a lot of moving parts to it. I've talked a lot about the different things about hourly capacities and clinical efficiencies and knowing your numbers and tracking, doing marketing, making accurate business decisions, reinvesting in coaching and people and other things that are going to help you grow that you just don't realize you need, because too many young DCs are getting into practice ownership with literally no guidance on how to actually make a profitable company that pays them well, let alone hires people. And I want us to break that cycle. That's my goal. That's kind of my massive transformative purpose. That's our goal with coaching. And that was my goal for this episode, was to start getting you thinking about what it looks like to reverse engineer from 30,000 a month, what it would take to get there, where you're at now. And obviously some of you are way past that, and that's great. But this is, I think, that number we need to shoot for as our, if we're in year 3, 4, 5, 6 of our practice, like, we got to start getting there. And if we're not, we got to find a reason why we're not. Now, again, if you just want to be you in a front desk for the rest of your life, low overhead, high profit margin, want to, die on the chiropractic table, that's great. And maybe this episode wasn't for you, that's fine. But I think we need more of this if we're going to break our profession out of this vicious cycle. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.